Chairman Creighton and Chairman Flaherty and committee members, thank you for giving us this opportunity to testify. I'm Chris Mino, the president of the Massachusetts Family Institute, and joining me is Evelyn Riley, who is our director of public policy. I will address our positions on House Bills 1722, 1710, and 1728, and then Evelyn will continue on H 439, 1568, 1689, 1709, and 1735, and we promise we will be short and succinct. Thank you. To begin with, the Massachusetts Family Institute, our mission is to strengthen families, and human sexuality is a key issue for us. And we're extremely concerned about House Bill 1722, and we all know now what it is, because of the right to privacy and safety of women and children on behalf of the smallest special interest group that can be accommodated, we think, otherwise. It's estimated that the transsexual population at the most is 1 out of every 2,000 people, and that's 0.05% of the population. Now, currently, as we know, proprietors of public accommodations are prohibited from discriminating against people of any sex or sexual orientation in the full enjoyment of their accommodations. But the law currently does have exceptions for single-sex bathrooms, bathhouses, seashores, fitness facilities, and of that genre that are recognized of single-sex requirements. However, as we see, 1722 would remove all of those exceptions. And our concern really is that nothing would prevent a sexual predator from pretending that he is confused about his sex to gain access to vulnerable women and children in public restrooms that really should be places of safety and accommodating their health. I just also want to recognize that transgenderism is classified as a disorder by the American Psychiatric Association in its Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And yet 1722 deletes discrimination protection for children, marital status, veteran status, membership in the armed forces, or recipients of public assistance. And we believe that public policy should not accommodate an infinitesimally small percentage of the population with a psychiatric issue to use whatever public restrooms or bathhouses they want, while simultaneously removing that protection from families with children, veterans, and people on public assistance. I think the most graphic example would be that a father and his daughter in a mall, she wants to use the restroom. He can't go in there with her. She's a young child. He has to wait outside, and yet a man claiming to have a gender disorder would be free to go in there. And for these reasons of public safety and well-being, we recommend that the Joint Committee issue an unfavorable report on this bill. Are there any questions at this point?
Any questions at all, Mr. Seeing none.
All right, moving right along to Bill 1710, an act to protect Massachusetts family through equal access to civil marriage, or basically the codification of same-sex marriage. And we believe that the record is clear throughout human history that marriage has been a permanent relationship between a man and a woman, primarily for procreation and nurturing of children. And over 10,000 social studies have shown that children do best when raised by their father and their mother in a committed married relationship. Well, conversely, same-sex marriage teaches the next generation that there's no special uniqueness about male or female, husbands or wives, mothers or fathers in their role in our society. And this radical social experiment was forced upon the citizens of Massachusetts through a judicial fiat by the Supreme Judicial Court. But we believe the institution of marriage belongs to the people, and only the people can change the definition of marriage. Nonetheless, the citizens of the Commonwealth have been repeatedly denied the opportunity to vote on the definition of marriage, despite the fact that upwards of 75% of them wish to do so. We believe that marriage has been significantly weakened by divorce, illegitimacy, and cohabitation, with serious effects on the children. No-fault divorce was America's last radical experiment, and we see now the results on that of 50% of the children in America being raised without either a father or a mother. And a loving, compassionate society should not place children in an environment that denies them being raised by their father and their mother, and for that reason we oppose Bill 1710. My final testimony will be on Bill 1728, an act to repeal the prohibition of certain residents to marry in the Commonwealth, basically the repeal of the so-called 1913 law. Currently, sections 11 and 12 of Chapter 207 of the General Laws, which were established in 1913, honor the full faith and credit clause of the federal Constitution, which requires a state should recognize marriage licenses from other states. And because states differ in age of consent and familial relationship restrictions, that is why the 1913 law was passed. And this law has been claimed to be racist or unconstitutional, but we take exception to that. Specifically, if it were so, the Supreme Judicial Court ruling in March of 2006 would have said so. Furthermore, in a memo in May of 2004, the Attorney General addressed the Massachusetts Justices of the Peace with the following: although some states' prohibition of interracial marriage were among numerous prohibitions that the proposed uniform law aimed to enforce, there's not the slightest evidence that this purpose actually motivated the Massachusetts legislature, which had repealed the Commonwealth's ban on interracial marriage in 1843. The Massachusetts lawmakers of 1843 agreed with a House recommendation that said the state's ban on interracial marriage is the last relic of the old slave code of Massachusetts and ought to be obliterated from the statutes book of this Commonwealth as contrary to the principles of Christianity and republicanism, unquote. Now, my point is that it's preposterous to claim that the 1913 law was based on racial bias or discrimination when Massachusetts was the first state in the Union to ban to remove the ban of interracial marriages. And I think it's disingenuous for our state, which has yet to allow the citizens to vote on the definition of marriage, to force same-sex marriage on the other states, 28 of which have allowed their citizens to vote on the definition of marriage. And for these reasons, we recommend an unfavorable report on 1722.
Are there any questions at all of the witness? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
I have